Regular quarterly washing of the Bedok Hawker Centre, where one of the 3 tuberculosis clusters were found, is taking place 1 month earlier. Block 216 Bedok is also getting a deep cleansing, such as hospital-grade treatment. Cleaning ends tomorrow, and the centre is set to reopen on Wednesday. There have been repeated calls urging people to return and patronise the stores. Noah Kong reports.
The jet sprays are out weeks earlier than expected. And there's enhanced deep cleaning using disinfectant used in hospitals. High-touch surfaces, tabletops and seats, railings and toilets are getting the treatment. Hawkers and merchants are calling on people to return after many reported sharp declines in customers and earnings following the TB cluster announcement at the end of last month.
I think the messaging that CDA has been sending, which is that it is not virulent enough for it to be contagious if you sit down or you share a table, I think people begin to understand that. But despite all this, I think our hawkers here tell us that business has been down and patronage has been lower than usual.
All we need to do is to educate our residents here, perhaps maybe go extra mile on putting on the table the messages, all right, to tell them that no, not to worry, you are safe. Let's have, your food here, okay, everything is taken care of by every agencies here.
The disinfection service provider is deep cleaning the hawker centre free of charge after being approached by Mr. Tong about 2 weeks ago. With prior experience sanitizing during the pandemic, the company says this operation involves about 8 people at any one time.
If we are compared to in the previous virus, so this one is considered medium. So previously we also doing for this dormitory, disinfectant, and also the foreign worker who stay in the ships.
Since authorities announced the 3 TB clusters in Bedok Central, stores and businesses in the area saw a dip in sales of up to 70%. Since then, more than 3,000 people came forward to get tested for TB, with more than 470 testing positive. The results of their X-rays are expected to be made public later this week.
Professor Paul Tambyah joins us, Senior Consultant at the Division of Infectious Diseases at the Department of Medicine at National University Hospital. Professor, tuberculosis, break this down for us. How is it spread? Is it casual contact? Is it airborne transmission, prolonged exposure perhaps?
Well, tuberculosis is definitely not spread by casual contact. It is actually spread by airborne transmission, and that's more in closed environments. There were really landmark studies that were done several years ago in Peru, where they put guinea pigs in rooms of patients with active TB who were coughing out blood. And they found that if the rooms were air-conditioned, a good proportion of, almost all the guinea pigs got infected. But if you had natural ventilation, so the windows open, the ceiling fans going, a much smaller proportion of the guinea pigs got infected. And that's in a very controlled environment.
But is it accurate to say that all TB are contagious?
Not at all. In fact, what you heard about people who tested positive, that just means that they have the TB germ inside the body. So these 473 individuals have the TB germ inside their body, but their immune system is keeping it under control. So they're not contagious at all. Now, the vast majority of TB is spread through the air from someone coughing in your face or at least, someone at home who's been coughing over a period of time. But there is TB outside of the lungs. So, like, for example, if you drink unpasteurized milk from a cow infected with TB, you can get TB in the intestine. But that is not contagious. It just goes from the cow to the milk to you.
Now, how effective is deep cleaning a communal space like coffee shops, hawker centre, as we see at Bedok? Does it prevent the spread?
Well, very little TB is actually spread through the environment. And I think what it does is it builds confidence. Because, most individuals don't have a deep understanding of tuberculosis. So the fact that the environment is clean and hygienic would encourage people to practice good personal hygiene, not to go there if they're sick, to seek medical attention, which are the things that are really going to make a difference.
Now, the area of concerns are the people with low immunity and existing health conditions. What do they need to be more careful with?
Well, the main thing is to obviously stay in good health for the rest of the individuals. For those who have low immunity, they need to talk with their doctors. And like, for example, for transplant patients, we screen them for latent TB on a regular basis. And if they do need treatment, we treat them. But in general, if you're in an open air, naturally ventilated environment, the risk is very low.
Now, what does it take for bacteria to be eradicated? How is the general public able to remove the risk of TB spreading?
Well, the most important way to control the risk of TB spreading is to find every single case and make sure they're well treated, because that ensures that the individual is well, and not only that, but that he or she doesn't spread it to anyone else. And in a way, that's what they're doing in Bedok. You see, through casting the net wide, they're finding individuals who have the TB germ, 90% of whom will never get TB disease, and then they're screening them with x-rays and with sputum tests, and those who need to get treated will get treated. So hopefully they'll break the chain of transmission.
And what can we do to avoid contracting TB? And are there ways, perhaps, of building immunity to reduce the risk of developing it, perhaps?
Well, the most important thing is to stay healthy, to eat sensibly, to make sure you don't have diabetes. If you do have a transplant or you have to go for chemotherapy, then obviously talk to your doctor.
Now, for those who have tested positive, what should they look out for? What are some of the symptoms to observe and steps to take?
Okay, so those who tested positive, like I said, a large number of them will never get TB in itself. So what they will do is the CDA will probably screen them with a chest X-ray, as you heard about. And if the chest X-ray is positive, they'll do a sputum test. But anyway, along the way, the major symptoms of TB are the cough that doesn't go away, or fever and night sweats, or like you see in the old movies, when the heroine coughs up blood, then you know she's got TB.
Well, thank you so much for this information. Thank you, Professor. And we've been speaking to Professor Tambyah from the National University Hospital.